Greetings folks and welcome to the Electromaker Show. This is your roundup of all things maker and embedded and lovely. And this week we have a fantastic show. We're looking at the Electromaker of the Month, which is a fantastic roundup of community projects that have won prizes on Electromaker. We're looking at the ones that won in October. And the winning project in October was amazing for a number of reasons. I'll go into that later. We're also going to be heading back to Crowd Supply to look at some fantastic crowd-funded things. A while ago we talked about the Pocket Integrator, a pre-launch project that brings a lot more functionality to Pocket operators from Teenage Engineering. That is now live and funding, and it does a lot more than it looked like it did on the tin. It's actually a kind of an amazing beast. And we're also going to look at some fantastic new hardware that you can buy. Well, I think some of it's out, I think some of it isn't. We'll get to that when we get to it. Anyway, with all of that to get through, let's get on with the show. We are going to start this week's show by looking at the Electromaker of the Month. Now, these are projects that have won prizes from Electromaker for essentially being, well, great. We have a panel of judges that look through projects each month. And so if your project was submitted between, say, the start of October and the end of October, you would have been eligible to win this prize. And it really is any project that is put up on the site. Although our judges are looking for a few things, the quality of the documentation, also the scope of the project, and in some cases, it's also the scope of the project within a person's means. So, for example, someone who is putting up their very first experience with the Arduino, maybe they're just getting it blinking lights for the first time and getting sensors working for the first time. If the documentation of that is good, then that's something that could equally win as much as any super complex prize. However, this month, a super complex prize has won. So we'll come on to the winner in just a moment, but before we do, this is what the winner, well, wins. It is a bunch of Nordic Semiconductor prototyping gear, a Thingy 91, which is a cellular little kit we've talked about a few times this year, along with the NRF5340 development board, which is sort of the workhorse development board for all things Bluetooth Low Energy, and a tile as well, which is one of those little IoT tile things. And of course, you can't beat a good mug. And the winner also gets some Electromaker swag, including one of our t-shirts and a few other things, and a $50 Amazon gift voucher. Second and third win a big pile of Nordic swag as well, including the NRF52840 dongle, which until I actually got my hands on one, didn't realize that it's a fully featured development kit. It's just in dongle form. You plug it into the USB port of your laptop, but it has GPIO pins. It has everything you need to get started with Bluetooth Low Energy. And it works with the same suite of tools as everything else that Nordic does. So NRF Connect works with the programmer. It works with the I forgot what their IDE is called. Is it just called Connect? Oh, NRF Desktop, whichever. And you also get a bunch of nice Nordic swag as well. Second and third also get the same Electromaker swag too. So that's what Electromaker of the Month is. It's been happening every month this year. There is only going to be one or two more Electromaker of the Months of this year. And we'll be continuing next year in one way or another, I think. But this has been an incredible year, really. Every year we've had a load of fantastic projects and people really have stepped up to the occasion. Now, on to third and second place. Third place was the Galdino handheld computer, and don't let this kind of quite smart-looking case fool you. This is a hobby project. Now, someone got the PCBs made in order to make it a little bit more pro, but this started off, if we actually go to the page, as an attempt to make essentially just their own kind of keyboard. They just took some proto board, stuck a lot of buttons on it, and tried to work out how do you make this speak to something. Stuck it in a case with an ESP32, and slowly over time. This is a bit, the way that this is formatted is strange because this is earlier and then you go up for later, but slowly over time they came together with their completely custom PCB, which incorporates a bunch of switches, a color touchscreen, and an ESP32. And yes, it might look a little bit like a calculator, and it can absolutely do that. It has a math engine on it. It has the Eigenmath math engine on it, which at the time of this project being created did not have an ESP32 port. They ported it themselves. There's a lot to love about this project and too much to go into now, but in short, this is a graphing calculator. It is also an IoT device. It can be used currently with Philips Hue bulbs, but of course that can be extended out, but it is an ESP32. And it also has if I remember correctly, you can also run Python on it. There's a text editor, draw graphic functions, and a custom weight control system. I'm not actually sure what the custom weight control system is. I may have missed that on my first read through. But yes, there's a lot to love about this. It is a completely custom MicroPython implementation. It is a fantastic project, and congratulations for winning third place. This is a project from Angel Cabello. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that name. Yeah, this is a fantastic third place. Moving on to second place, we have the Robo Gaggia, which hardly fits on my screen. This is taking a Gaggia espresso machine, or Gaggia, Integrator, I suppose. Again, English pronunciation here, I apologize. And automating it in a number of kind of interesting ways. So again, this is both of these projects were picked not only because they are fantastic projects, but because of their write-ups. There's a really good write-up here, a really good write-up of what is bad about it. It's not bad as such. Manual steps making coffee is something that some people enjoy, but if you just want to press a button and come back and have a nice coffee, and this GIF is triggering me, I want coffee, this is saying exactly why he wanted to do it. There's all of these steps you have to go through manually in order to get good coffee. And this is an attempt to take all of these things and make them, just automate them, essentially. So using thermostats, and also using thermostats, so... Let me just see, dual PID temperature controllers, and then flow control. Also, they integrated a scale that fits into the drip tray, so you can measure the amount of coffee that's coming out. Auto shut-off, and then a microcontroller-based automated brew process that eliminates the need for the brew or steam buttons. And there's a couple of other things going on here as well. Hacking coffee machines is one of those things that I think a lot of makers sort of fixate on, because you could buy the cheapest coffee machine from a supermarket and then make it an IoT device with a relay and a few bits and pieces. But this takes it way many steps beyond. This is a fantastic project. The level of detail that's gone into this is stunning. And for me, this is one of the ones that I personally found really interesting to read through, because I'm not much of a coffee fanatic, but I do understand that it's way more complicated than, just hot water in the thing. There's a lot of control that needs, and especially the dual PID temperature sensors, I thought was a fantastic thing here. But they were the second and third places, and so congratulations to both of you. You come second and third, but the winner this month is a project which is so fascinating for so many reasons. But let's just begin with the thing itself. This is a headboard, essentially. It goes over your bed, and it has a bunch of LEDs inside it. It also has a voice assistant inside it, and it also can... weirdly enough, brew you coffee. Not quite the same level as the RoboGaggio we just looked at. But it has its own voice assistant called Prisma, and the way that was made was very interesting. There's also, the project is called Project Lumen. So just very briefly, let's talk about the build, but I don't want to talk about it too much before telling you the other side of this, which is the wonderful video that comes with it. But yes, in short, this is a prototype project, but it covers a lot of ground. And I'm going to try and go through it quickly, but it's kind of difficult to do so because there's so many elements to it. So the frame, to begin with, there's a few molded plastic parts here, but it also uses kerf bending, which is a method of bending wood, which is very precise. You cut lots of little slots into the wood so that it will bend around without the wood actually breaking. And you can bend some quite complex shapes into wood if you know how to do it, which the Maker absolutely does. The Maker here, by the way, is Sector 7. That is their nom de plume. I saw the actual maker's name somewhere, but I cannot remember what it is. I'll make sure I dig that out before the end of this section. So there's 3D printed panels here that get fused together using a soldering iron, and also also these beautiful wooden panels that come together to make this wraparound kind of style that you see at the start of here and see in this video thumbnail here as well. It wraps entirely around the bed. Now, inside, there are a couple of Arduino Megas who are doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, but there is also a micro speak-up board, which is a hardware board I was not familiar with until this project. It is a fully integrated board that can recognize, I think, up to sort of like 100 different text phrases. You can speak to it, it will listen to you, and I don't know how it works. I don't think it's an Edge AI device. I think it just looks for close to similarities in voice patterns, although how they would do that without Edge AI, I don't actually know. But yes, the Speak Up clickboard from Micro. And the voice assistant that replies to you was done in a super interesting way also. This isn't a voice assistant in that they didn't just stick an Alexa or a Google Home, the Google Assistant in there. You can do that. You can stick an Alexa in a Raspberry Pi, anything that runs Linux, you can put an Alexa into. But instead, they decided to make their own voice assistant piece by piece by coming up with every possible reply phrase that they think that they need for the project, and then putting it into Amazon's text-to-speech symbol, making them all separate MP3s and triggering them using an Adafruit MP3 trigger board with the little SD card that goes into it. You probably know them quite well from lots of Halloween projects because you just number your files one by one and it will play a random spooky sound when someone crosses a sensor or something like that. In this case, the Speak Up board and the MP3 board go together to make a fairly convincing voice assistant, and the voice assistant is called Prisma. Now, I wanted to kind of briefly go over the hardware of the project and, show you that it does actually look incredibly beautiful. It's a very polished build, so that I could then essentially spool back to the other side of this, which is that this is not just a hardware project. This is basically a short film based around a science fiction premise. I urge you to go and watch this short film. Essentially, I don't want to spoil it at all, actually. I really love the way it's done. I really love this approach to hardware documentation. I've never come across anything quite like it. But needless to say, it is a beautifully shot short film on the subject of making this headboard, but it doesn't quite follow the narrative that you expect it might. It's not scary, it's not weird. It's just, it's not your average someone like me talking to the camera saying, hey, so I made this thing and here's how I made it. I'm going to leave it at that for now, but Sector 7 is clearly a very, very talented maker, and this is the project that won the Electromaker of the Month this month. So that has been the Electromaker of the Month for October, and yes, Sector 7, congratulations on the win. You'll be getting all of this Nordic semiconductor prototyping gear, and we'll be in touch with you as to how we can get it out to you. And I'm really happy with Electromaker of the Month as a concept. I really love the idea of us being able to celebrate the fantastic project on our site. Of course, you don't have to win Electromaker of the Month to be featured on the show. We always feature projects on the Electromaker Show that we like. But the idea that we can actually physically give back to people who, who've made something wonderful and say, hey, look, here's more hardware to make more awesome stuff with, really means a lot to me. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to keep going with the Electromaker of the Month past the end of this year, but there's at least 2 more Electromaker of the Month prizes to give away. So let's find out what they are. But for now, let's get on with the show. Moving on to Hackaday with the news that the USB to I2C library that's been kicking around for quite a while now is based on the Tiny 85 or 80 Mega 85, not sure. But essentially it was a library that allowed you to just control I2C devices directly over USB on any Linux, Mac or Windows system. It has now been ported to the Raspberry Pi Pico. And that's what we're looking at right here. This Hackaday article is talking about exactly that. Once the Pi Pico came out, it was one of the things that immediately came to mind to me, is that as well as the thing itself being a fantastic piece of hardware, is that with a bit of custom firmware and the fact that it is USB compliant, you can use the PIOs for attaching a PC to pretty much anything. That was sort of my thinking. It was a thought that never went any further, but it seems like I'm not the only one who's thought of this, because this essentially is exactly that. It takes the original idea of USB to I2C, puts it on the Pico, and allows you to just use any I2C devices with a computer. The reasoning for this back in the day, there's obviously multiple reasons for this. The first one is just, that's kind of cool. I mean, the idea of having a tiny I2C screen hanging off the bottom of your screen that just had, say, I don't know, CPU and GPU temperature, if that was important for you to know at the entire time. Or maybe you could even just have your Twitter feed there, if that's, again, something that you need to see all the time. Why have a separate thing for that? Having a completely separate machine that's attached to the internet is faff. You can have this one thing attached to your main computer. And another one of the reasons, which was very similar to that, was security. If you're going to spool up an entire Raspberry Pi, which is connected to your network, it's another thing that could be attacked from the network, and it's another computer that you have to give whatever stack you have for security. If you're not doing this at home and in an office environment, that might be very specific and very limiting. It might just stop you from doing it altogether. This is the answer. The Raspberry Pi Pico, which is a very, very cheap development board, it's sold for a handful of dollars. I can't actually remember how much the Pi Pico is. Is it $4? I think the Pi Pico is $4 and the Pico W is $6. Is that right? Yes. But they are given away in abundance at trade fairs as well, and they were given away in the front of the Raspberry Pi or the Magpie magazine, all that kind of stuff. Great little boards to learn various things on, and now you can use it as an I2C adapter that plugs directly into the USB port of your computer. And of course, bad Apple, because it is important that it is on every single screen, everywhere, always. If you are interested in this, I will link the Hackaday article here. You'll see I've already visited the GitHub here. The GitHub essentially is just a GitHub where you can clone it and use it. You use it the same way as you do the old library. There's a few instructions here as well. But essentially, if you are using Linux, as you say, you can drag and drop the UF2 onto the Pico, attach it to your system, and you will get a dev I2CX device, and then you can use it in your user space code. You can use it exactly how you would with any other attached device in your code. If you wanted a temperature sensor attached to your computer that wasn't one of the internal temperature sensors, this is probably the easiest way that you can do that now. I just thought I'd point it out because the original USB to I2C project was a really nice idea. And you don't always want to attach a I2C device to a microcontroller or a Raspberry Pi. Now you can attach it to pretty much any computer you want. The Electromaker Show currently has 2 ongoing contests that you can enter just by leaving comments on this video or on our social media, and there's 2 things that you can win. Currently, we have the Power Profiling Kit 2. This is prize number 1. This is a really powerful bit of kit, actually. I've had one of these myself. This is a sealed new one. I had one to play with a little while ago. I think I also gave away. Essentially, you can attach this to any hardware project you have, and there are software tools that are free from Nordic that will allow you to get really in-depth as to how much current your project is using. It was used heavily also in the Electromaker Educator video, which you can find on our channel that was put out relatively recently. The video is called How to Use Less Power in Your Project, or what to do for better power consumption in your project. You will see Robin's face. He is the Electromaker engineer, who is also a fantastic educator, and he can take you through that, as well as how to use this bit of kit. So, if you are interested in winning a PPK2, all we need to know is what you would be doing with it. What project would you use in it? How would it be useful to you? And also leave the hashtag PPK2. PPK, the number 2, no spaces. And that just means we can find all of the entries. And then we'll be drawing that probably on next week's show. However, there is one other contest that we have going. Because you may remember on last week's show, if you saw last week's show, we talked about the Inkplate 2. And this is a fantastic small e-paper display. And the guys behind Inkplate have been doing this for a while. There are big ones, there are black and white ones, there are lighter ones, there's a color Inkplate. This is a 3-color display. And in fact, I have one here. This is one of the early prototype models, but it is a finished model. It's not early prototype. What are you talking about, Ian? This is a very late prototype model, I suppose is what I'm trying to say, because this is exactly what is here. It is an ESP32 on the back, and it is an e-ink display on the front, a 3-color small e-ink display, and yeah, it's really, really fun. I've had a bit of a play with it. You can, of course, just program it, because it's an ESP32, you can program it however you want, but they've also got Arduino support, they've also got MicroPython support. You can even just plug it into the USB port, and then just talk to it over serial, and you can directly say what should go on the screen just by sending serial commands. You can send draw commands over serial. It's really kind of an awesome little thing. So there are 20 days to go left on the Kickstarter, and when this Kickstarter finishes, to celebrate the end of their Kickstarter, I'm going to give this prototype away to one of our audience. So again, it's very similar. If you would like to win this, all you need to do is tell us what you would use it for, and leave the hashtag Inkplate2. You can enter in one comment, you can enter for both of these things, but if you do win, if your comment has both hashtags in it and you win one of them, you then can't win the other, if that makes sense. But if you've got 2 separate entries, totally fine. We only take away duplicate entries for the same thing. So you can enter both of these things. I probably didn't need to explain that, did I? Let's get on with the show. It is time for Funding Website Things, where we look at things on funding websites, and we're starting on crowd supply with the Pocket Integrator. Now, this isn't the first time that we've seen the Pocket Integrator. When it was a pre-launch project, we talked about it, and I got quite excited about it, because it works with the Pocket Operator range of teenage engineering music-making devices. They have various different ones. My personal favorite is the PO33. It is a sampler that allows you to sample, strangely enough, and do lots of diverse and a surprising amount, given that it looks like a pocket calculator, you can do on this little device. But this attaches to the back of the Pocket Operator, the PO33. They're using the Rhythm KO, which is another great one that I haven't actually used myself, but I'm a big fan of. I can see myself having a big collection of them. I have 2 PO33s right now because sampling's my thing. And this allows you to add a bunch of different ideas to it. It's not. You see, when I first saw this, I thought this was just getting the PO in time and having a fun little maraca thing. The video up here essentially shows, I'm going to keep the sound off, I'm just going to try and kind of smack through it, but essentially you can shake it like it's a digital maraca, but you can also bang it against your hand in order to get the timing going. So say you wanted to start, you can go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it'll be in time with you. I'd urge you to watch the video. It goes through everything that it can do, probably a lot better than I'm about to, but yeah, here we go. So, as well as the maraca that it has built into it that will, play out through the Pocket Operator, and setting the timer of the Pocket Operator, it will also send MIDI syncing to any other device via MIDI TRS or USB. Pocket Operators use their own proprietary form of clock, which is called PO step, I think, and it's their control voltage is sent in pulses. That's how it works. This decodes those, and it sends out digital and digital analog MIDI MIDI clock signals. Right, tripped over my words a bit there. So you could use this to sync with various other devices, not just other Pocket Operators, which is kind of cool. Another thing that I really like is the fact that it replaces the batteries on the P033. The P033 uses AAA batteries, and they do last quite a long time, but it's still very annoying to have to constantly carry batteries around, especially in an age now where everything plugs via USB. This will just plug straight into a USB charger or a USB battery, and you don't have to take batteries around with your PO anymore. This is the bit that I think is super interesting, though. The Pocket Integrator implements a USB-based serial wire interface for programming and debugging the EFM32 Leopard Gecko microcontrollers on the Pocket Operator. So, if you have a PO that you're willing to risk bricking, you can put custom firmware on it, which is amazing. Because the Pocket Operator, one of the things that I wished I could do with it is hack it and spend a bit more time actually seeing if I could add or take away things. And yes, at my own risk, but I'm that kind of person. I like that. So, there's a lot more to this. I would advise coming and having a look at the page. I know this is a niche product. I know if you don't have a Pocket Operator, you're probably not going to want one of these. But given the fact that Pocket Operators are very, very worth the money, unlike everything else Teenage Engineering makes, a slight aside just for a moment here. The synth world is something which I do kind of cross over into a little bit here on the Electromaker Show because of, people making their own synthesizers. But if you're not familiar with the synthesizer world, as a brief and trying to be as nice as possible way of putting it, Teenage Engineering have ruffled a few feathers by putting out some obscenely expensive gear, which is quite nice, but is seen by nobody as really necessarily worth the amount of money they're asking for it. But by the same time, having put out the Pocket Operator series, which are some of the best budget instruments for digital music creation that you can probably get. I think that's probably put it quite nicely. This is a tool for the latter category. So even if you don't have a Pocket Operator, you might want to spend the £60 or £70 to get one in order to use this bit of kit, because this adds a lot of fun things to it. Anyway, the main reason I wanted to come back to this is so we could find out how much they would want for it. All in all, they want $99 for the Pocket Operator, and that is including the sync cable as well, which is about the price of various other Pocket Operators. So I suppose if you are someone who likes the Pocket Operator, you could see this as just an extension of your collection. You can also get the USB Type-C to Type-A cable from them if you want. I'm sure you could probably source your own as well. But yes, this is the project. This is the thing. This is the project. It is now live. They have 28 backers, and they have 13 days left in order to actually get the $30,000 goal that they want. Who knows? It's 2 weeks. There's a lot can happen in 2 weeks. If you are interested in this project, however, I wouldn't sleep on it. I would give them your support now in order to get this thing made. Moving over to the BlueIO832 Mini. Now, this is a pre-launch project on Crowd Supply still, and just in case you're wondering, when it comes to pre-launch projects like this, there's no way of knowing how much it's going to cost or when it's going to appear, but if you would like to know more, you can always put your name in the box here. In fact, I'm going to do it for this one because I would like to know more about this one when it goes live. But what we know about it right now, it is a Bluetooth Low Energy Development Kit based on the NRF 52832 system on chip. That's this here. And it has its own app, which I think is quite interesting. So if I mute this, we can play this just quickly, and I will skip through it. As always, I would advise coming and watching this video yourself. I'm not going to sit through all of it with you right now, but essentially here is the I've already forgotten the name of it, the BlueIO832 Mini. It's right there, and they are wiring it into a USB port. In front of them, they have an iPad, and up here they have a terminal program. Now, this app is their app, and that's what they're bringing up on the iPad. And this app is what will communicate between various different Bluetooth Low Energy devices and sensors and a host machine via serial. So this is talking to the Bluetooth Low Energy machine, and it is going to talk to the PC up there. And this project goes on to show you that you can send text back and forth and files back and forth. So hello from iPad, hello from PC, they're sending things back and forth through the dongle. Now, the idea, as it says, is that this is no code. So the app is going to support various different kinds of Bluetooth sensors and Bluetooth things that can be attached to it. In fact, it says down here somewhere, there's already a few things that have been, built in-app configurable features, serial interface bridge, UART, I2C, SPI of a target device, and GPIO functions, and the ADC, along with an NFC tag. It can use as an NFC tag once a compatible antenna is plugged into the NFC connector. So, It is essentially a small development board that allows you to work with various different forms of Bluetooth Low Energy without having to code it and without having to get into the software development kit side of things, which is really quite interesting because it uses a Nordic system on chip to do this. And this is almost like taking the original Nordic demo app that they show you for because most of your Nordic Blue Energy kind of development kits will come with something built in, which you can use through the Nordic app. The idea being, look, this is what you could do with it, but now you can take it further and develop further with it, with their suite of coding programs and things like that. This is a bit different because it's saying the app is going to do all of that for you. You can talk to various different devices without having to use code, and it will talk via serial back over to your main computer. Yeah, it's a really interesting project, but it's a pre-launch project. We don't know anything about it. We don't know how much it's going to cost. But I really like the alternative ideas as to how you can start to get into different kind of protocols and work with things. If you don't need to know the Bluetooth Low Energy stack, why know it? If it's only a small part of your larger project, then yeah, sure, take the serial data and incorporate that into your code on your client machine instead. Why not? If it's something that you do know a little bit more about than I do, and you're seeing something that I'm not, of course, as always, let me know in the comments. I make my living by talking about things enthusiastically. I do occasionally make mistakes. But this looks really fun. I'm really looking forward to seeing how much it's going to cost when it goes live. And of course, like many things like this, we will come back to it when it goes live to see the cost and to how much it will cost you to get one, and any more developments they put updates about the system as well. If you are enjoying the Electromaker Show, it would do us a massive favor if you subscribe to our channel. Next to the subscription button, there is also a little bell here. If you click this and select all, it means you will get notifications within YouTube and within YouTube only when we put new things on the channel. Now, usually it is only the Electromaker Show that goes up on the channel. Recently, we have been at a couple of very nice in-person events, and so there are a lot more shorter videos going up. This is rare. This happens a couple of times a year maximum. Mostly you'll just be getting the Electromaker Show that you're watching now, and of course if it gets annoying you can always turn these notifications off again. I tend to have these on for channels where they put things up that I really do want to keep up with, be them serial things or makers that I really want to hear from. That's exactly what it's for. And whichever video that you happen to be watching on the channel as well, it would do us a small but still very well felt favor if you click the like button. Clicking like doesn't just tell us that you like it, it means that YouTube know that you like it as well, and they'll look at people who look at similar things that you do and are much more likely to recommend us to them, which will of course make the Electromaker channel grow. It's been an amazing year for us. We hit 10k subscribers, and even in the short time since then, another 2,000 people have decided to subscribe to our channel, which means quite a lot for a channel that essentially talks about little Winsley makery embedded-y things. It's not necessarily the most popular subject in the world, but it's something that we love, and we're glad that a lot of you do too. So, YouTube is a great way to support us. However, the most solid way that you can support us absolutely is by shopping at the Electromaker Store. The Electromaker Store is our shop, essentially, and we stock a lot of things. As you can see by the name scrolling across the top of the screen, we sell things from Raspberry Pi and Arduino, for the very starter kits, through to everything from Seed, from Nordic Semiconductor, through to some pretty high-level stuff for embedded engineers as well. Whether you're looking for a hobby kit or whether you're looking for something a little bit more in-depth, it's definitely worth giving our shop a search. We have a pretty good stock of everything at the minute, except from, of course, sadly, Raspberry Pis. That's not just us, that's still everybody, unfortunately, at this time that we're particularly talking, although hopefully things will improve a little bit soon. So yes, if you're thinking of starting your next project or buying a gift for someone this Christmas, consider shopping at the Electromaker Store. But whichever way you decide to support us, be that just watching the show or even listening to our podcast, we'd like to thank you so much for another fantastic year. Not that this is the last show of the year, I just start to get a little bit emotional towards the end of the year. Anyway, that's a very weird way to end what is ostensibly an advert. Let's get on with the rest of the show. We're going to close out this week's show by talking about Electronica 2022. We're going to talk about a couple of things from Electronica 2022. There's not time to go through all of it. There was just so much there. And if you look at our blog, the electromaker.io blog, you will see there are lots of articles there. Each one of those articles embeds a video, which is an interview with someone from the different stands about various different bits of kit. And we looked at the NVIDIA Jetson Orin there. We looked at the new Rock 5 Model B that I talked about last week. We also looked at a pretty awesome robotic chess player that plays chess and is a robot, strangely enough. The two things that we're going to talk about are Infineon. They had some very interesting NFC-based locks. And we're also going to talk about Stephen Hawes. Before we go into that, though, just a couple of new products that I thought looked sort of interesting. We're starting on CNX Software for a very brief look at the OrangePi 14-inch portable monitor. This is going to cost $59, and I'm really going to whip through this because essentially it is a fairly low budget 1920 by 1080 display. It takes USB-C, it also takes HDMI, and it is, well, It is a monitor. It is a portable monitor. It does have built-in speakers. It has a little stand, as you can see there. It is available on AliExpress, and you can find the AliExpress link early in this article here. There we go, yep. And I'll link this article in the description. It doesn't surprise me all that much that OrangePi have put this out because they've been putting out SBCs like the OrangePi, strangely enough, for the longest time. And they recently put out the OrangePi 400, which I notice shows up here in their promo shot of it. And it's a very nice, simple way of adding either an extra monitor to a laptop or using it with something like this. As you can see here, this is quite a nice little compact setup. And it's also a fairly nice budget setup for what would essentially be a decently powerful-ish desktop device. I haven't had my hands on an OrangePi 800 yet. I'd love to have a fiddle with one and see how it stacks up against the Raspberry Pi 400. Hardware-wise, they're not that dissimilar, but obviously with OrangePi, you have to think about software and how well supported it is. But yeah, I'm just putting it out there. This exists. It looks kind of cool. I haven't got my hands on one yet. Maybe we can get our hands on one to give away, but we'll just have to find out. But yes, OrangePi appears are branching out of SBCs. Staying on CNX Software for a look at the LOLIN S3 Pro. Now this is an ESP32-S3 based device, and it comes with a bunch of nice features. Now there's a lot of there's a lot of ESP32 development boards out there now. I understand that you might be kind of thinking, why should we care? There's a new one every week. But there's a number of nice features here that are definitely worth looking at. So, for example, it has a micro SD slot for local storage, which is not something you see on every development board, especially microcontroller-based development board. It also has all the usual ins and outs you'd expect, ADC, I2C. It also has a DAC out, which is synthesizers. But it has a battery unit on board. It has a battery connector on board, with a battery management system on board. It also has a display port, which is something I thought was quite interesting. Display IF, display port for TFT and EPD displays. I'd be interested to see what the software support for that is like. I haven't messed around with displays on ESP32s much. Certainly not this kind of display, at least. And there's a couple of other small quality of life things. USB-C connector, always nice to see that. And these things are now available for $9.50 on AliExpress, which again is actually pretty cheap. So I'll leave it at that for now. If you'd like to read the fantastic write-up on CNX, I will put it in the description of the video. Now, moving on to Electronica 2022. This is a video of me interviewing someone from Infineon about one of their amazing little battery systems. Now, battery-less systems, that's the important part. This padlock has a very small circuit inside with a solenoid, and what he's about to do is use his phone to charge that circuit. There's a capacitor in there, and a very, very low-powered microcontroller, and it's going to pop the lock open like that. It's kind of amazing. The NAC 1080 is what is running this. It is a ARM Cortex tiny little low-powered microcontroller, and essentially that's what's doing the brokering. The phone, the NFC signal from the phone powers up the microcontroller. That is what is used to do the handshake, and of course, if the handshake is right, it will pop it open. However, what is kind of amazing, and also if you're looking in the background here, can I make this full screen? I can, and I'm out of the way. Excellent. What you're seeing here is a sort of blown up version of it. You can see that the inside there is a little kind of gantry that moves back and forward with a motor, and you can see me trying to get it in the right spot so the camera can see it. And yeah, there is no batteries here at all. I don't know if you get a good shot at the circuit itself, but it truly is just a microcontroller, a capacitor, and a couple of small components attached to a motor. All of the power is being driven out of the phone's NFC signal. And again, this is it opening a safe. The really impressive part, and I'm hoping we get to see it, is the lock. Yes, now, the main reason that this was something that I found kind of amazing is that we are used to the idea of smart locks these days. Great. And smart locks work with, well, power. And they might have batteries in them, they might be attached to building power, whatever. However, if something goes wrong with that and the lock loses power, the only way that you're going to be able to open it is by using battery probe points in order to power the lock up again and then open it using a normal way that you would, say your entry card or whatever. Infineon's new chip allows you to add this to already existing locks, and so if they do lose power, you can just get your phone out and it will push the lock open. Now, it does take a lot longer to do because it takes a lot more charge in order to do it, but you can lock and unlock doors using this little thing. So all you'd need to do if the power was out and you couldn't use your normal locking and unlocking system is hold your phone up for a little while. You're seeing it working now. That wasn't even that long, actually. That was only 6 or 7 seconds. And then, your lock will unlock and lock again. And it has exactly the same amount of security as the main lock does as well, because it's NFC. It's the same security level as paying on your phone. It's the same security level as NFC, which is as good or as bad as I guess it is made to be. By the way, if you're wondering what I'm doing with my hands, I'm holding a cup of tea. It's still very cold in the attic up here. It's an Electromaker mug, though. I'm on brand. Anyway, this and various other blogs from Electronica are going to be on the front page of Electromaker for a while. If you just head here, you'll see all of these are blogs from Electronica, with a couple of exceptions. But the one I really wanted to talk about, and I touched on briefly last week, was Stephen Hawes and the Lumen open pick-and-place machine. Now, Stephen Hawes was at Electronica 2022. He's a maker and a manufacturer now from America who, unfortunately, I didn't get to meet, which is a real shame. I'm a fan of his. I've been watching his YouTube channel for a while now, and I did not know he was here. When our camera person was on the walk around looking for cool things, I was busy editing and writing other things, and I was miles away in the press room. It's a real shame. I would have loved to say hello to Stephen. But this article will be linked in the description of this video, and the video that we're about to watch together, which basically explains Lumen PNP better than I could, is embedded in here. But yeah, let's let Stephen introduce Lumen in his own words.
My name is Stephen Hawes, and this is the Lumen PNP, which is a desktop pick-and-place machine. It is completely open source, so you can download all the source for this yourself and build one. What a pick-and-place is it's literally going around and picking up small electronic components. It's holding them over a camera and doing some computer vision to optically align where they are, and then it places it exactly where it needs to go onto a circuit board. So this is just our demo board that we bring to events. It just has a few LEDs and resistors on it, but this machine actually populates its own motherboard. So the actual controller that drives this thing, we actually make this using itself. It builds its own brain. At our office in Pittsburgh, we have a bunch of these things, and they make all of their own boards. We can go down to 0402 with it. The machine is $1745 USD, so just under $1,800. And you can see here, it's picking all the parts out of just tape that's been pulled through. All the components come in this tape, and you pull it through and it'll pick them out. And this is okay. This is how we actually make all our boards at the office. But what we have coming out early next year is a powered feeder. So this actually moves the part forward automatically, and you just have the spool on the back, and it will move it forward, and it can pick them one after another. Here, I can, like that. So we can fit up to 50 of them on the machine at a time, and then it's totally automated. 50 unique parts with powered feeders, then you can do another 50 with strip feeders, just like you can see here where it's actually using them. And that means you can do a board with up to 100 unique parts on it. Like I said before, it's all totally open source. We have a community of over 3,000 people who are interested in the project and making modifications and upgrades. We're constantly working on making new features. And here's the board. Usually we actually will do solder paste on it and like pick and place all of the parts into the paste and then put it into the reflow oven. But Mesa Munich didn't want us to bring a reflow oven onto the floor, so we weren't able to do it. So we just have to use the sticky tape. But yeah, we're Opulo. We're the company behind the Lumen PNP pick and place machine. And yeah, you can go to our website at opulo.io.
Now, as I mentioned, Stephen has a YouTube channel, and long before Lumen Pick and Place was a thing, I was aware of Stephen. Well, I mean, take a look on this screen and see why you think I may have been aware of Stephen already. We have a DIY analog synth module here, and we have a wrist-mounted flamethrower here. I feel like I don't need to say much more. I am sort of amazed looking back at these videos that I saw several years ago that they had so few views. I for some reason, I thought Stephen made videos that got millions of views. I was wrong. But don't let that have any bearing on what you should or shouldn't watch or quality. Stephen has been a fantastic content creator for a very long time, making the kind of videos that we as makers really enjoy as well. It's getting so cold, I'm having trouble getting sentences out now. But yes, as you go up the history of Stephen's YouTube channel, you will notice that, for example, there was this, the glow tie was a big project that he was essentially a bow tie, which was a network attached device. The thing itself is amazing as well, actually. The introduction video for the glow tie is just here. And it was during this project that he basically decided, okay, I don't want to have to hand solder thousands and things again. Let's start putting together an SMT pick and place. And here's the first video. 2 years ago, I'm picking it and building a pick and place. If you want to know the history of Lumen and how this thing came together and why such an incredible piece of kit turned out to be an open source project, which you heard right, is available for $1,800. That's incredible. $1,800 for a decent medium-sized pick and place machine. It's unheard of. Stephen's channel is absolutely fantastic. He doesn't really need a bump from us, I don't think. But like I said, I was always under the impression that he had a channel. He was one of the big ones, I thought, in my head. I must have him mixed up with someone else. I would love to have a chat with Stephen at some point. I'm gutted I missed him at Electronica. At some point, I'll see if I can get him on the Electromaker podcast so we can chat about how you go from being someone who makes things on YouTube to essentially making what might be the best budget option for a pick and place machine for people who are just starting out now. I certainly think that when the Lumen Pick and Place version 3 kits are available, it's something that I will consider for sure, because one of the big problems that I have is, I don't want to buy one of the built ones anyway, because it'll just cost an absolute fortune in shipping. I feel like a kit might be easier. Could be wrong about that. One of the big problems I have with getting any synthesizer designs or anything like that together is the future-proofing of it all. I have various reference designs that work, but the idea of ever self-making anything that I could sell is just so impossible with the little time that I have. The idea that something like this would be available and affordable for someone like me is just incredible. So yeah, Stephen Hawes, fantastic YouTube channel. Seemed like a thoroughly lovely bloke. Wish I could have met the guy. I will leave a link to, his YouTube channel is linked in the blog article we just looked at. I just wanted to give this channel a shout out in case you weren't familiar with it. There's a lot of really fascinating stuff if you are into making your own stuff in general. And like I said, go back a little way and there's custom Eurorack stuff and making a synth sequencer and wrist-mounted flamethrowers. I don't need to say more than that, surely. That has been our show for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for all the support that you show the Electromaker Show, be that by subscribing to us on YouTube and liking videos and all that kind of stuff, or going to the Electromaker shop to buy things. It's coming closer and closer to Christmas, and by the time you see this video, now will be a really good time to start getting those orders in to make sure that you have everything that you want for the Christmas period, be it an Arduino kit for a first-timer, or a very specific bit of hardware that you want to get a friend of yours who you know will love it for their particular project. We're pretty well stocked at the minute, so yes, electromaker.io, click on the shop tab. But that is about it for this week. We will be back for a couple more shows this year. We're definitely going to have a regular show next week. I'm trying to work out how it's going to work around the holiday period because I am finally going back to England to see family. I haven't actually been back to England since before the pandemic, so it's going to be quite nice to do that. So maybe you'll get a special Electromaker show from Jolly Blighty. Who knows? We will see. But until next week, I hope you have a safe, fun, and creative time. Take care.